Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we'll be taking a look at the 2024 Senate election in the state of Nevada, and I'll be giving you all an update on this race. This will be the latest of our deep dive videos on the competitive Senate races. It's now, I believe, October 6th, so we have really a month left until Election Day, and we've got a couple more Senate races to cover. So today we'll be doing just that, talking about Nevada. Now, this is a Senate seat that Republicans really should be competitive in. Nevada is a state that's been trending their way in recent years, and in 2022, they came within a point of beating out a relatively popular Democratic incumbent. And so, on paper, given that a lot of people expect Trump to win back Nevada this year, given that I'd say the Republican candidate Sam Brown on the surface doesn't really have any scandals or any problems, right? Given all that, you'd expect this race to be, at a bare minimum, a competitive Democratic-leaning race. What we've seen, though, is that this race has become not competitive. It's essentially, you see Democrats are very likely to win, and perhaps by a good margin. And so this has become really interesting because no one really knows why this race has become so bad for Republicans, but we do know that it has become bad for them because last week Republicans have, essentially triaged Sam Brown. They said, look, we have a really easy path to 51 seats here in this Senate map this year. We're not going to spend any more money in Nevada. We're going to give it up and reallocate our funds elsewhere. And so Sam Brown is now going to be on his own, and he has a good amount of money. He's been able to raise some throughout the course of the past few months, but he's going to get outspent in the home stretch, and that's just, I think, could be the nail in the coffin for his campaign here. But let's talk about this because this race is interesting, and Nevada's going to be an interesting state this year. So right now, in the polls, Jackie Rosen leads by 8.6%. So, this is a lead that's well outside the margin of error. And even in Nevada, this is just talking about the polling in Nevada, right? Like, this is a result that's even better for Democrats than you might think. So generally, when we talk about the polls in, say, Wisconsin or Ohio or maybe Michigan, we say, look, Democrats usually lead here, but often they don't end up winning. And even if they are leading, they often win by less than they're ahead by. In 2020, Biden led all three of the led in Wisconsin by, I think, 7 or 8. He led in Pennsylvania by 5. He led in Michigan by 8. And he led in Ohio or I think he was essentially in a dead heat in Ohio. And the polls all missed by 4, 6, 7 points in favor of Donald Trump. And so that's why a lot of people are very nervous about Democratic prospects in these in the Midwest, because the polls there show a close race, and historically that hasn't always been great for Democrats. In Nevada, though, it's kind of been the opposite. In 2016, we saw Hillary Clinton was losing by half a point here on Election Day in the polls, and she ended up winning by 2.4. In 2018, Democrats were trailing in the Senate race, and they ended up winning that race. And then in 2022, most recently, we saw that Adam Laxalt, the Republican, was leading Catherine Cortez Masto by 1.5 and he ended up losing that race by 0.8%. And so in 3 out of the past 4 elections, we've seen that Nevada does tend to underestimate Democratic support in the polling. Now, as I always say, you can't use past polling misses to predict the future polling error, but it's worth noting because a lot of people like to make this argument. Now, that isn't why I think Jackie Rosen's going to win. I think she's going to win because not only of the fundraising advantage and because of just the fact that she has an 8.5-point lead, but because Republicans don't think that they have a chance here. And again, you can see this when we look at the GOP polls here. Remington Research, this was a GOP-sponsored poll. Best they could do is find Rosen up by 6, and then the nonpartisan polling, right? And by the way, this is a nonpartisan conducted poll, but Insider Advantage is the GOP poll, and they have Rosen up by 8. But she's up by 14 in the Cook poll. She's up by 9 in the Telegraph. She's up by 7 in Emerson. She's up by 13 in Morning Consult, 14 in Noble Predictive Insights. Trafalgar, which had Trump winning the state in 2020 and had Catherine Cortez Masto losing by 5 points in 2022. They've risen up by 8. So Brown hasn't been able to find a lead in any poll. It's just the same thing over and over again. We just see big leads for Jackie Rosen. And Jackie Rosen, again, right, I haven't talked a lot about her this video, but she's the incumbent here. And she's a strong candidate. She won by 5 points in 2018, so she definitely knows how to win statewide. But, she isn't someone that you'd expect to be super popular. She's not like a figure that's been around in Nevada for a long time the way Harry Reid was before he died when he was super popular, right? She's an incumbent senator who isn't unpopular but not like a huge political institution. And this kind of, makes me want to talk about the general election here just briefly. We're going to talk more about this race as we get closer to Election Day because I want to, give the presidential race here its own spotlight. But The interesting thing about Jackie Rosen is that she's doing a solid 7.5% better than Kamala Harris, right? Kamala Harris right now leads by zero point 0.9. She's at 48, Trump's at 47. And Rosen and Harris actually are pretty similar. Harris at 47.8, Rosen at 48.7. So Rosen's only a point ahead of Harris, while Trump is at 47 and Sam Brown's at 40. So that's obviously why we kind of see these results. But like, what's happening is Rosen is outrunning Harris by 7.5. And even if Harris does lose the state, like, even if you don't believe the polls that have Harris ahead, if you believe the Delta, she'd have to lose Nevada by like 8 for Jackie Rosen to go down. And so, obviously, since I don't think anyone engaging in good faith actually expects Kamala Harris to lose Nevada by 8, if she even loses Nevada at all, that's a pretty good reason to be confident in Jackie Rosen here. And I think Republicans know this too. They see that they're going to have to win, or that they're likely to, not likely to, not they have to win, but like they would like to win a Senate seat in a Harris state or a Biden state from 2020, whether that be in Pennsylvania or Wisconsin or Michigan, right? And they can do that because the polling gap between Harris and the Democratic candidate in those races is getting smaller by the day. In Nevada, it's just stayed the same. It's just been, it's kind of a 50-50 race back and forth. Sometimes Trump leads, sometimes Harris leads, mostly maybe a slight Harris advantage in Nevada if you believe the polls. But then in the Senate race, the gap hasn't closed. It's just been like, Jackie Rosen's up by 8-9 points, and no matter what happens to Kamala Harris here, it looks like she's still ahead. And so this is the interesting thing about Nevada. The majority of the votes are going to come from Clark County. 75% really, are going to come from here. And Democrats struggled here in 2020, and they also struggled here a bit in 2022 because they lost ground with Hispanic voters, specifically those who were working class. And so the argument for Trump in Nevada is that he's going to continue to make gains with working class voters of all races, like he did to an extent in 2020, and that's going to propel him to a victory statewide because he's going to be able to cut into the gap in Clark County, which does lean blue. Again, Biden won the county by 9.4 in 2020, so it's a blue leading county. But again, a 2 to 3 point margin shift towards Trump would be enough to flip the state back in all likelihood. So that's what people are arguing. But the problem for Sam Brown here, the Republican Senate candidate, is that there's no evidence of that because in the crosstabs of these polls, talk about Hispanic voters, they all, every single poll shows Jackie Rosen outrunning Kamala Harris with Hispanic voters by pretty good amounts. So even if we see Hispanic voters swing towards Trump yet again, which could happen, right, doesn't look like that's going to affect the Senate race. And if we compare this to the more recent Senate race in Nevada, which is the 2022 Senate race, where Catherine Cortez Masto again won by 8,000 votes statewide, which it was a very close result, Cortez Masto was able to win, but she actually did worse in Clark County. And so the fact that Cortez Masto could win, and by the way, this was a very bad turnout environment for Democrats. Exit polling actually had the electorate that showed up in the Senate race to be like Trump plus 5. So most people think that Trump, if he were on the ballot against Biden in 2020, or if you ran the 2022 Senate race in the 2020 election, it would have been a Trump plus 5 electorate, right? And Cortez Masto won by a point. So she actually would have outran, if you believe the exit poll, she outran Biden by 6. And she did that, and she was able to, and she had to do that really because the turnout for Democrats in Clark County was so bad. And that's why she won it by 7 instead of 9 or even 11, which Hillary Clinton won it by. So we see Democrats have slipped in Clark County a bit over the years. And what I'm saying is, look, that could hurt Kamala Harris presidentially if the election's close enough, but I don't think the Senate race is close enough for that to hurt Rosen. And so for all of these reasons, it's pretty clear to me that Democrats are favored here, right? I wouldn't call it a safe blue seat because obviously it's Nevada. It's always a close state. I do think Rosen's going to win by less than 8.5 because again, you see we still have a good 12% of voters, 11% of voters are undecided. I think they're going to swing towards Brown because again, the Rosen and Harris numbers are pretty similar, but Brown and Trump are pretty far apart. So it means that the majority of undecided voters are probably just Republicans who are going to vote for Trump and maybe don't know who they're going to vote for in the Senate race. I think they're going to come home for Sam Brown, but it's still a bad sign for him that it's October and he's only at 40%. So that's all to say that, look, I think Democrats are in a really good spot in the Senate race, and it's going to help them a lot in their chances or in their quest for a majority this November. Obviously, Nevada is not the tipping point. And a win in Nevada doesn't really guarantee anything for Democrats, but it does help them. And it's really good for them that Republicans have essentially called it quits here because obviously with a map like this in 2024, Democrats are need to win every seat that they can get. And so Nevada, I think that's kind of one that's going to be looking pretty good for them as we get close to election day. So let me know what you all think. Let me know what you expect to happen here come November. Uh, Comment down suggestions for future videos, and I'll see you all in the next one.